Instant replay.
Instant replay. Here we go. Okay, welcome back everybody to your TBD, your Colorado Springs real estate podcast. I'm Rob Thompson, associate broker with the agency here in Colorado Springs, and I'm here with my associates who can introduce themselves.
I'm Nanette, Lampman, another associate broker here at the agency.
I'm Mike Mattice, a mortgage loan officer with Total Lending Concepts here in Colorado Springs.
And I am Laurie Ristig, also with the agency, a realtor.
Right on. Okay. Well, last week we talked about credit repair and the machine that is FICO.
Yes, we did.
So this week is kind of it's going to be a state of the market podcast where we're just going to talk about the market and what it's doing. Kind of a free-form discussion where we'll talk about the market. And I know one of the topics that we talk about frequently is should you buy, and we'll touch base on that topic. But first, Nanette, what's our word of the day?
Our word of the day is a receiver.
Like a
One.
Football player.
Or a football player. And actually, in regards to real estate, this is one who is authorized by the court to control a property while it is involved in litigation before the court.
Okay.
Someone's going to be in charge.
Who chooses that? I'm just curious.
I think the court appoints them.
Is that court appointed?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. So receiver is our word of the day. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about some market stats. Before the podcast, we were doing a whole bunch of research and looking at some numbers. My sense of it is that the market is slowing, and that's backed up by the average days on market, which are currently 32 as we sit here. 32 effective for November 2017, which is down 5, interestingly enough, from November 2016, and down 24 from November 2015. But it is up 11 from June in this market. So June represented 21 days on the market for the average home, which is now up to 32. So that parallels my sense that the market is slowing a bit. What other stats do we have?
We have our active listings right now, which is 1683.
So 1,683 active listings as we sit here right now. We were talking a little bit about what that means as far as a market. And one of the research stats we broke down was Laurie had a good idea to look at it from 300,000 and below and 300,000 and above.
Well, right, because it's all well and good to say, there's this many homes on the market that are active, but if 3/4 of them are way out of most people's price range, it's showing the supply for everyone, but not for individual price ranges. So we were looking at November. There were 1,073 listings and 977 sales in the 300,000 and below. So, I mean, that's about a 1 month supply. There were only 100 homes in that price range that didn't sell.
So when you contrast that, if we say from an open market standpoint, there are 1,683 active listings. Last month, there were 1,386 sales. It can be kind of deceptive. Mm-hmm. It shows that there's maybe 6 weeks worth of inventory. But as you point out, there is less than it's just over a month.
It's about a month's worth. And then above 300,000, there were 1,563 total listings and 551 sales. So if you're looking at above 300,000, there's about a 3-month supply. But that's 300,000 all the way up to multi-million.
And
right.
There probably, the last time I looked, there were several that were at least a page full of 25 homes or so that were 4 million plus.
Sure.
Yeah, so skewed heavily. So we're saying, just to sum that up, that there is approximately 1 month's worth of inventory as a rule of thumb for the market, which tracks at 300,000 and below. But then if we go to 300,000 and above, mm-hmm. there's 3 months worth of supply.
Sure.
Okay. Interesting. So what about pricing? I think I broke down some numbers. Our average price right now for November 2017 was $304,792. Interestingly, that is close to June's high, which was the high for the market, the literal high for the last 10 years at least, of $305. We dropped down to $298.9 in September, bounced back up to $304,792 in November. Wow. So we're close to the literal high. At the same time, days on market are increasing, which actually makes sense. There's more homes, or prices have gone up, which increases the days on market. Mm-hmm. But but also is slowing as that market pricing increases because the pool of available buyers can only afford so much.
Right.
Right.
Is that what we're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where does this go from here?
Oh.
I don't think
Well-
it has much room
Not much more room to grow.
to, no.
I mean, when you're, especially if you're looking at 300,000 or below, if you're looking at the same houses that the other people in that price range are looking at, and let's say you look at 10 houses and 5 of them are just, they're just okay, and 3 of them are, oh, this could work, and 2 of them are, these are amazing houses. All the people that are looking in that price range at those same amazing houses, they're going to get multiple offers.
And
Because
More
there's just not,
competition.
if the inventory is disappearing as fast as it's showing up, if there's a 1 month supply, the houses that are great are going to go quickly
and, that just
and
push
are
up prices.
and push up prices, exactly.
But they can only go so high.
True.
Because people can only afford so much.
And it's only going to
So-
appraise for so
so
much as
sure.
well.
That's a good point. It's kind of, it feels like we're kind of in a stalemate. Houses are coming on, they're going off. Prices are, I would say, are relatively stable when we're looking at a $7,000 price
Yeah,
swing for
for
the
6
year.
months.
The last 6 months. What about interest rates, Mike?
Interest rates, it's interesting. The Fed yesterday raised the federal interest rate another quarter point. And Miss Yellen, as her last statement, said that she expects to see the Fed raise it again 3 more times next year. I actually have seen a little bit of a bump in actual rate in the last week. And I saw a little bit of that on Monday in anticipation of the Fed raising rates because it was widely understood that they would be. So rates are headed a tick up. Rates are incredibly low historically still. They're just not where they were a year and a half ago at 3 1/4. We're closer to 3.875, I would say, for Govy loans.
So that will have a market effect too, though.
It will,
Even
eventually.
I would suggest a 1/4% interest rate hike
That
has
could
a-
represent like $60 to $75 per loan.
on a payment.
Yeah.
So in a market that's already possibly topped out,
It's tight, yeah.
That's a difference between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So borrowers should really focus on their overall debt, what they have as far as card payments, credit cards, stuff like that. You may not qualify. It's possible.
So that also begs the question: should you buy the home? If we see interest rates are
Well,
projected up,
A $300,000 home. So I'll bounce that back to you. What does a $300,000 home rent for? And I know that depends on where it is in a town, but in often cases you can buy the house cheaper than you can rent it. But then you face the problem: can you sell it 3 years from now when you PCS out and at least break even? That would be the ideal scenario. Obviously, we'd all like to make money when we buy and sell property, but if you could bounce out of there and not lose anything, that would be great. But is this growth, as we talk about all the time in our podcast, is this growth sustainable?
Right.
And the operative question that I've been putting out there is can I, what you just said, codified, can I reasonably expect to gain 7 to 10% appreciation
Right.
on the purchase price of this home that I need to break even, or am I prepared to be a landlord?
Right.
And if I'm prepared to be a landlord, does the home cash flow as a rental?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The compounded what you just said too, that you might not be able to find a rental at the
Right.
if you have 3
Rentals are just as hard to find as purchases are.
I would say
Yeah.
harder. They're harder if you have any kind
Of credit
The
challenge.
credit is
Or-
almost
yeah.
as stringent.
is credit requirements.
I think it's actually more so.
I would
From
agree.
the comments that I read
Right.
on Facebook, I would think it's probably more so, especially with people who have pets. Those are the people with the hugest barriers.
So the question of should you buy a home is kind of offset by the fact that you might have to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
accommodate your either credit or
Credit
cash
or-
on hand. It's,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
It's more expensive to move up front. It's more expensive up front to
To
move
move into a
to a
rental.
rental.
Right.
To
Right,
buy a
yeah,
First
first-
month's,
Yeah.
last
first-
month's,
right.
pet deposit, security deposit, all of that. And it's like if you can
And you
get
can't write
a
any of
CHAFA
that off
loan,
on your
right? If you can
taxes.
get a CHAFA loan, if you qualify for a CHAFA loan, you can move in for $1,000, right? Is that
That is correct.
yeah? So versus moving into a rental and you have to cough up, $5,000 or whatever.
Yeah, I think another issue is people moving into town, so they're trying to find a rental from out of state, and their
Yeah,
hands are
and
so
they're
tied.
hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're hitting.
So
They're hitting the
they
spring.
almost are
Especially
forced
and
into
especially
buying.
if they're moving here and they don't have a job already. Versus if a landlord is looking at a renter who lives here already and has been working in a steady job for 3 years, versus someone moving here and is like, I'm looking for a job. I don't know how much this person's going to make. I don't know whether they're going to keep that job. I don't know, but this other renter is a little more secure, so I'm going to pick them. What is what the landlord would.
Yeah.
I mean, all the other things being equal.
This is a really tough place to come into.
It is very
It is. My best advice to folks is to look at it from an investment perspective. Expect if you're going to buy a home, you need to be prepared that you may be a landlord, and then adjust accordingly. Don't buy that home that's at the top of your budget, where you or it won't cash flow as a rental.
Right.
That you have no buffer against too.
Mm-hmm.
So do you sit down and educate people about cash flow and those principles and how it works?
I do. I do my best to do so. Here's a case in point. I had somebody reach out over the weekend, and they said they were interested in buying a house. They've been here for several years. They know categorically that they're leaving in 21 months, and they said they do not want to be a landlord. I said, well, I'm a realtor. I'd love to sell your house, but I must tell you that you are not going to break even, most likely in 21 months. And then therefore you need to be prepared to be a landlord. And if you're not prepared to be a landlord, then you are or write a check, right?
Write a check.
Then you shouldn't buy a home, and they're not buying a home.
The sad thing is they'll contact somebody else that will tell them what they want to hear. Most likely.
That is a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with someone this morning about the different approaches. I mean, we're realtors. We sell houses. That's our profession. That's how we feed our families. But I'm not making a value assessment necessarily. But if you're not thinking or educating your people long term, you're setting yourself and them up for failure, in my opinion.
I would agree.
If you're just selling a house just without, now there's been a couple times where we educate the folks and
they make that decision anyway.
But they're making an informed decision.
And that's their choice.
We closed on one.
Yes.
We closed on one recently where the individual said, "Hey, we acknowledge that this house doesn't meet that criteria that you're establishing. We're okay with that. We still want to buy it."
Yep.
And so okay, well.
Right.
We did our due diligence to let them know that this is a possibility that they might be upside down when the time comes.
I think it's great
they want
that
to
you
sell,
guys,
but they were still they really wanted that house. So
I think it's great that you guys spend the time to educate people.
We do a lot of videos and a lot of case in point, and you're part of that too, my podcasts and so okay. Well, I think we circled the wagons on that one.
We did.
We would love to sell you a house, but you have to make an informed decision.
Yeah, and another thing we were talking about earlier that kind of ties into how hard it can be to get into a house, especially if it's your first time and the prices are getting higher. And Nanette was talking about your daughter and your son.
My daughter is looking to buy in February and already has the plan to either look for a duplex, which that's pretty tough to find. Investors have snapped most of those up, and she's probably priced out of that. But to purposely look for a house that's set up in a way that her brother they would plan on him moving in and paying rent, maybe a separate space in the house, so that she's a landlord and living
in the house that she lives in,
because she'll be able to afford more house.
I mean, if your mortgage payment is, I'm just throwing a number out, $1,400, and you can rent part of your home out for $600. I'm literally just throwing a number out.
Yep.
Your mortgage payment's now $800.
Exactly, and I think we're going to see more and more of that creative.
Yeah,
solutions.
or multi-generational houses too, where there's a mother-in-law suite in this house. Hey, Ma, want to live here?
Family members getting together to buy a house.
Yep.
Because you can afford more house.
You
and
can.
If you can't find something under $300,
you can
maybe between two families, you can afford.
You can get a bigger home that has
But
some separate living area.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's a commitment.
It is a commitment. So, case in point, but.
So we're talking about alternative forms of buying houses. So
It still beats rent.
I saw an article yesterday. A couple people tagged me on that El Paso County approved
the tiny homes.
Yeah.
Commissioners are going to tiny homes.
Unincorporated.
Unincorporated. Yeah. So that I don't know that that'll have a dramatic effect. Well, it won't have a dramatic effect on housing because there's just space and inventory. But it will provide some relief.
My sister lives in West Covina, California, and the city council is taking that exact issue up because there's such a huge lack of housing there as well.
But where's unincorporated? I mean, are we near somewhere to work?
Then so there's the
you know,
commute costs associated with that.
And no services.
And heading into winter. It snowed today.
And here's a question we've never talked about. I'm just on the fly thinking of it. What is the difference really between a tiny house community and a trailer park? Besides just these are new and they're fancy and what, like, I mean, in terms of building a community of tiny homes in a lot within the city limits.
Yeah, what's the difference?
You know what I mean?
It really isn't.
They're essentially the same thing, but that's different from I have a residential lot and I'm going to put one tiny house on it or two tiny houses on it and that's it.
I would suggest that tiny home is probably a little easier to move than a mobile home.
Well, they consider them a trailer. They are on a trailer chassis, and so
and
that's
it
why
depends,
they're not allowed.
It depends on the tiny home too, though. I mean, I went to the tiny home festival up. It wasn't Denver. It was just east of Denver. A few months back, and they had all different. They had
That's an
the
interesting question.
shipping containers where you set up like two shipping containers, you know, at a 90-degree angle, and it was huge and it was enormous, and it was a smoking deal.
And you can magnetize stuff to the walls. I mean, I'm sold.
Easier to hang pictures. All right, thanks for
Anyway.
that.
I don't know where I was going with that. It
I'm
was
actually
just
gonna have
a
to-
thought where I was
Something I
like,
thought of,
I
too.
mean, honestly, if you're trying to solve the housing crisis in the
Right.
city, why not build new, quote unquote, trailer
Some cities
park
have done
communities, but made of tiny homes that are newer and nicer and have, you know, a little more modern and are what millennials want to live in. Most millennials, you say to them, do you want to live in a trailer? And they say, absolutely not. And you say, would you like to live in a tiny home? And they're
That
like,
looks like a
where
log
do I
cabin.
sign?
Yeah,
Sign me
all
up.
over it.
You know, I'll pay $40,000 for a tiny home. Smoking
Tiny
deal.
might be the way. I was reading an
I'm gonna
article
have
in
to
the New York
research
Times about these micro apartments in New York City, 350 square feet, $2,800 a month.
Oh my god.
But down to the point that they have what they call a lending library, pots and pans, the vacuum, the whatever, because there's not room in the apartment. So it's
Oh,
all
right.
shared.
So it's like almost like living in a dorm situation where there's
It's
a
like having
kitchen
your
down
own
the
private
hall.
space.
Yeah.
So it's a commune kind of
But
atmosphere.
not really. I mean, you have your own space,
Well,
but there are common areas.
Is there kitchens in these?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Micro kitchens. I mean, 2-burner stoves,
right.
that kind of thing. But I'm wondering if small is the
So you're not
answer.
making Thanksgiving dinner?
Probably not. Someone will do one turkey.
Maybe
leg.
with
Someone-
what do they call those little hens that people cook?
Cornish game hens.
Thanksgiving.
So you get this whole discussion centers around a larger question too of the millennials, the future of housing. I personally think that there's a large shift coming,
Yes.
a significant shift,
Mhm.
and I think we are in it. We're kind of like
Yeah, we're right on the
Yeah.
cusp of it. I would
Yeah.
agree. I have to research this week to see if there's financing for tiny homes and how they're classified.
Well, I did talk to Tumbleweed a while back, and they do in-house financing. They have a bank who will finance. I think it's put
Is
15 or 20% down, but then they'll finance the rest.
The land and the unit, or
No,
just the
just the
unit?
unit.
Just the unit.
So you have to have the land itself.
Yeah, and then who puts it on there?
They don't strike me as incredibly complex. You back the trailer in, you
Mhm.
anchor it down, particularly
Hook it up to
if windy
service
area.
to utilities.
I'm sure
So
that's
maybe it's
something
more
that's
like-
gonna. That's probably a product that's coming for us in the future. I don't
Yeah.
know that it's here now. Like I said, I'll have to look into it this week.
And
I'll
maybe
answer
in
that
terms
question
of
next week. but-
maybe in terms of zoning, it's more like an RV park than
Mhm.
like
you
a
can
trailer
put them in
park.
RV parks.
Yeah,
So right now
yeah.
that's fine. You know, like the one down in Colorado where you
Well-
can park an RV. You can put the tiny homes in.
And there's a really fancy one in Breckenridge.
I was gonna say if you had a
Tiger Run is the name of it, and they
if
have
you had
a number of tiny homes there.
right, and if you had a really nice RV park where you have a bigger space, so you have a little yard, maybe it's a little
Yeah.
fenced in area, maybe there are like almost like HOA rules, so
Tiger Run and Breckenridge runs just
right.
like that.
But I'm seeing also shared laundry, that kind of thing. too.
yeah.
Because that's good use of resources.
Sure.
And I mean, that is the trend.
All right, guys, let's do it. Let's build it.
So I did
If
want
we
to
build it,
update
they will come.
one more thing that happened last week as far as El Paso County and FHA loan limits. They were raised from 284 to 304 for a single family unit.
So a $20,000 increase.
Yeah. 304 750 to be precise.
So
Is what the new loan limit is for FHA
So
in
they
El
saw
Paso.
They saw the problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were
Oh, they did it nationwide, but I mean, yeah, they saw that we are definitely on the upward trend.
So again, back to the shift kind of concept. Wages aren't tracking.
No,
rates,
they are not.
So,
We're way behind.
But unlike 2006, you had to qualify for the houses that people are
Yes.
buying.
Yeah,
So I
it's
kinda
no
feel-
longer a mirror test where if you could actually leave mist on a mirror, you get the loan. now we actually have to justify the fact that you have a job and that you have good credit and that you have assets to close.
One of the thoughts I have on this characterization of, and one of my concerns is not to be all pessimistic in our podcast, but I feel like 2006, or we could say the .com bubble was pool A of people who had money, right? The stock bubble, things like that. That came crashing down. 2006 and the housing crisis was a separate pool of people, largely that bought homes. That crashed. Now we have pool C of people who have bought homes, have qualified for those homes. But is there a pool D of people who if these prices
Continue to escalate,
they can't buy? Like my kids aren't going to be able to buy
Right.
a $1 million home based on the projection of wages.
right? They're definitely not keeping
I saw
pace.
something yesterday. Somebody said that we've become a hustler economy in terms of entrepreneur type economy, but that doesn't bode well for sustained growth. It's very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen, but my bottom line advice to everybody is make the best decision you can based on the information you have, and plan for cash flow.
Right.
Because if something does significantly shift, it's going to affect everything.
But then looking way into the future, you have AI and automation, and 20 to 50 years from now, what does that look like? I know that's looking way far ahead, but I mean,
I know personally, I'm making the best. I own a quadplex in town. I haven't sold it. First, because I don't know what I do with the proceeds. Yeah, I wouldn't roll it into another multifamily at an increased price. But also, I'm just making the best long-term decision I can. Currently, cash flows. I don't know what's coming or what. So, yeah.
So you have some more money.
Yeah.
It's just it's a huge issue to think about.
Yeah,
That,
sure.
you know, if we, and I think we all agree that housing is a basic human right, and
Article 25 of the UN Charter actually stipulates that.
how do we support that?
Good question. I think
well, that's a whole different philosophical conversation in and of itself.
I think our podcast.
Intensity. Oh gosh, no.
We veered into some philosophical
Okay.
territory
Yeah,
here.
we have.
Well, let's. Mike, what's the 8-ball prediction?
8-ball
for interest rates.
I won't give you my opinion. Let's see what it says. Will interest rates continue to rise? It is decidedly so.
Oh, you heard it here.
There it is.
That's a pretty. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. Interest rates are going to rise. So then the net effect of that will be an increased days on market in this town.
Days on
downward
market.
pressure on prices.
Right.
But inventory is so low, particularly 300,000 and below, that floor might hold, I think, for a while longer on pricing. We're still seeing, as you pointed out earlier, Laurie, gems, houses that are in really good condition at $240. They are getting multiple offers. We had multiple offers last week, right? Very interesting market. Anybody got any podcast or book recommendations this week?
I don't this week, no,
I
unfortunately.
had a small business though.
What's
I just
that?
went in yesterday. Laurie will second me.
Oh yeah.
Lady
Lady
Press.
Fingers Letterpress.
Oh,
That place is great.
it's awesome.
It's-
It's downtown across from Acacia Park
Yep.
on
Okay.
Bijou.
Locally owned and operated,
Yeah,
and
you can look at the press. They have great, just really unique cards. Lots of snark, which
yep,
Good
tote,
times.
tote bags and cards and the
Yes.
jewelry. They have like locally made jewelry in there that I love.
But if you appreciate heavyweight paper with letters pressed into it, I'm recommending.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
really cute. It's
Yep.
adorable. I love that store.
And they're really like world famous. The barista over at Story Coffee was telling me that you can buy their cards everywhere.
Right on.
So yeah,
So Lady Fingers.
Lady Finger
So is that a
Press. I
franchise?
kept trying
Lady-
to say
it's Lady
Little Finger, but I was
Fingers-
thinking of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Is
It's
that-
Lady
It's actually
Fingers Letterpress.
Is that
Yes.
is that a franchise or is it?
No,
No.
no. Like I mean, the stuff's right there. You can see old fashioned. You see the press, the ink.
Well, you said it's
still on it.
world famous, so I'm just
They sell their cards.
Okay.
Yeah, all over.
okay.
My book recommendation for this week is one I'm reading called Deep Work, and it talks about talks about the state of affairs today in our fragmented, information-based economy, where we're saturated with with short-term information. So 280 characters on Twitter, sound bites, little tweets that have taken place, and it talks about how the systems we've built have literally manipulated us or moved us into a spot where we have an inability to we're losing attention, focus, and an inability to do deep work. And it talks about how most of the significant advances of the last human history have been from people who have taken the time and initiative to dive deep on topics and thinking, and it talked about Carl Jung and some philosophers who made significant advances to the human condition, but they had time to think, and the structure, and even everything we are doing. Facebook is built to trigger
instant gratification.
Yes.
Yeah.
The little notification icon. I was reading something about the philosophy of the design of Facebook, where that little globe with the little red indicator is actually built to jump out at you, like the design. So you must obey it, right?
It fires off your endorphins. Man.
It does.
Deep work. It talks about the need to isolate yourself. If you are wanting to learn or go deep on topic, you need to actually literally go in a room, turn off your phone. Don't have a computer in there, and do your work for 5 or 6 hours. There's one of the gentlemen's example in the book. He wanted to learn to program, but he found that he could not at his normal desk. He literally could not.
There's too many distractions.
Right. So he took a couple programming textbooks, like it was the Stone Age, and went into this. For 5 or 6 hours a day, he went into a room where he read about programming and forced himself to learn
learning about computers from something written on paper.
It's crazy, right? but the guy, he did it. He committed, I think, 6 or 8 months of doing that, and then went to a school for programming where he graduated top of his class and completely changed. Now he's an in-demand software developer making 6 figures because he took that time to drill down and focus. It reminds me of a story my wife was telling me about. There's a book called Market Wizards, and one of the investors in the book, she suggests turning off everything and just following a single market. If you want to learn about a market, you need to follow that market for 2 weeks, straight to the exclusion of everything else, and only then will you be able to see the patterns that you need to actually engage in that particular market. Just the thought, though, of sitting down and noting the stock price or a market price for every 5 minutes, 8 hours a day for 2 weeks, that's pretty. That's intense.
So that's what it takes to master something, and that's what I think we've lost.
Well, mastering something, I think, is the general rule is 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Of
just
doing
focus.
one thing.
It's doing one thing. And we don't
there's
do
a
one
Bruce
thing
Lee
anymore.
quote or someone, I believe it was Bruce Lee. He said, "I don't fear the man who has practiced 10,000 forms, or I fear the man who's practiced one kick
form,
10,000 times."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think it's such an interesting topic to think back. And they built the pyramids, but what distractions did they have? There was no TV.
Well, there wasn't Facebook, that's for sure.
Like they had nothing to do but think. Life was slower.
Well,
You mean like when we were kids? Before?
That's why we're so slow.
I would say there are probably some negative aspects of the pyramid.
Sure.
The way that
The slavery?
Yeah.
Darn, someone got crushed by a stone.
Darn.
That's funny. Not really. That's tragic and sad. But the point holds. When was the last time we built anything like the pyramids?
They had absolute focus.
Okay.
Throw noodles up on Walden Pond.
Well, shall we
Yes,
wrap it
I
up?
think we have to go out to the woods. That's the only answer.
I think that's it
Ted
for today.
Kaczynski.
We digress.
Yeah, we're digressing. That's your TBD Real Estate Podcast, a bit of a philosophical podcast, lots of market stats. I think we're all kind of in a philosophical mood, waiting to see where this goes. Yeah.
What's next?
What's next?
What's next?
TBD.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh man.
You all have a good. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.